We have waited over a year for the return of Multiversus, developed by Player First Games, and the launch has been an absolute mess. Today, we're diving into Multiversus and its shortcomings. Now, while this game has been heavily awaited, and I thoroughly enjoyed the beta, there are a lot of areas where it's falling short. So let's break down some of the major problems I've noticed throughout my playtime. Alright, let's bring up the first elephant in the room, and that's the gameplay speed. One of the most common complaints is that the gameplay feels too slow. I understand it's easier for the game to be slower for rollback netcode and for visual clarity, but even Super Smash Bros. Brawl wasn't this floaty. It feels like they took the slippery and fast cartoonish speed of the game and put it on the moon and in slow motion. It really takes away from the overall experience. Players are taking to Twitter joking about how slow it is, and honestly, they're pretty funny. The game used to have so much more dimension. Now, the movement is so slow that players are rewarded for spamming laggy moves because characters are so slow they can't punish it, or they're so slow that characters can't dodge these large attacks. This makes the gameplay feel incredibly degenerate and mindless. The other elephant in the room is the camera. Gosh, it's zoomed in way too far, making it difficult to keep track of all the action on the screen. And it's especially jarring when you play a character like Tom and Jerry, where their key mechanic is throwing the mouse Jerry, and you can't even see him on the screen. It makes it impossible to track him, and it's hard to tell where you are on the stage because it's so zoomed in. Combine this with the fact that character models are much larger. Now you can barely see any of the stage on the screen. This really takes away from the experience of the game. And speaking of taking away from the experience, the user interface is another huge issue. It's hard to read and difficult to navigate, whether you're trying to find specific options such as the character's moves data, or just looking to understand what's happening on the screen. It feels like a struggle. They also removed most of the traits and require you now to earn more currency to get access to more loadouts. And for those of you who play the beta, you might have noticed that the statistics from your profile and the rankings of other players and yourselves are now missing. You can see your match history, but full match details are now removed. This is a huge letdown, especially since there is no rank mode after a year, and knowing your rank among other players is motivation for your player base to continue to play. It's even more disappointing considering that all these features were in the previous beta. They also removed the feature of the ability to swap neutral and side attacks. Side attacks are your jabs, but in my opinion, they should just be a neutral button, but you have the ability to swap them. However, they removed that from the release. This is me in training mode attempting to run up and jab, but continuing to get a dash attack, which requires you to hold forward, which is running, and then attack. I kept doing this over and over and over. If I could swap neutral and side attack, this would be so much easier to manage. Key features being absent is a reoccurring theme throughout Multiversus' official release. Now, let's talk about the netcode. It's horrible, and you cannot select which server you play on when you log into a match. This means you're often stuck with higher ping, leading to a less smooth gameplay experience. I've been disconnected 3 times because of rollback things. It's incredibly frustrating that this happens when first player games marketed that the netcode has been greatly improved. Here are my internet speeds, by the way, so it's definitely not an issue with my internet. I was also wondering if it was my frame rate, but no. I had a smooth 120 FPS to 80 FPS, and my PC is more than powerful enough to run this game. The lag and connectivity issues make it almost unplayable, especially if you're on Xbox. The Xbox version suffers from low graphical fidelity and frame rate issues, making the experience even worse for the Xbox owner and the person playing against them. Check out this clip of a doubles match from the Xbox version.
Watch your butt.
This is pretty pathetic because they had over a year to fix these issues. What if I told you it gets worse? The input buffer is another major issue. It's estimated to be around 30 frames, which makes the game feel unresponsive and sluggish, and it encourages spamming. For many of my combos, I have to press the next button before I even do my first move. Combos should be free flow and in the moment. They shouldn't feel like I have to wait half a second or press earlier to get my next move going. This buffering system is worse than Smash Ultimate, and that's saying a lot. A very delayed buffer with super slow gameplay and laggy netcode. For fighting games, this is my nightmare blunt rotation. You know you can't have a good game without microtransactions and a battle pass. They now added a revamped battle pass system to the game, and I feel like I'm getting hit with sensory overload just by looking at it. You level up your battle pass by doing daily and weekly challenges. By the way, you have to accept those individually, and there's no accept all button. That's awesome, especially with how cluttered the menu is. Also, at the end of matches, they removed the information of how many KOs you got and how much damage you did. Once you finally complete all your challenges, there is no way to level up your battle pass after that. Playing the game, additionally, after that point is completely useless and will not advance progress. Players should be rewarded for playing your game more. This encourages your players to continue playing while motivating them with a reward. This would make progression feel more rewarding and tied to your actual performance in the game. And now we get to come to the fun topic. How do you unlock characters? The way to unlock characters is extremely limiting compared to the beta now too. You either use fighter tickets, pay $10 per character, or grind out fighter currency. You can only get fighter currency by leveling up other characters' mastery, the battle pass, and the single player mode, and it's an extremely limited amount. You might think it can't be that bad because you start out with a couple of characters, right? That's right, you only get to permanently own Shaggy at the start of the game and play 4 other characters that are limited and change on a weekly rotation. Gaining new characters takes forever, and even if you want to try them before you purchase them, they removed the ability to play as them in training mode or in local play unless you already own them. Not to mention, when I first logged on, I was forced to use the character tickets rather than the fighter's specific currency they just made. All of these issues combined make buying a new character a nightmare. In online matches and multiverses, they usually give you the ability to rematch after the game unless the opponent declines. In the last beta, you could swap characters if you felt like there was a better one suited for the situation. Now, if you want to rematch with a different character, well, too bad. Sucks to suck, brother. Another key feature of the game removed in the official release. They also got rid of the ability to turn off the player color overlay, which means in singles, when you go in a 1v1, the enemy character will be red. I understand keeping this for visual clarity in doubles, but in 1v1s, there's no reason this has to exist, and there should be an option to turn it off. Core gameplay modes are lacking too. There's no option for 1v1 or 2v2 against bots, and there's no ranked mode. Especially since newer players might get destroyed online, this would help them learn the game against the AI and place them in a rank with players in similar skill level. The only option you have for a single player mode is the story. So let's get into the story mode. In Multiversus, they have a story mode called the Rifts. The Rift system is a heavily monetized feature requiring players to complete various levels in order to get to an end of a stage. Whether it's 1v1s or weird random minigames, you have to complete all these to get to the boss. To unlock the newest character, Agent Smith, players must defeat 20 of these bosses, but there are only currently 5 rifts, with only 2 available right now. This means players must repeatedly complete the same rifts at different difficulty levels. And even if you complete each of the rifts on different difficulties, it is still impossible to currently unlock them. Additionally, the complex gem system requires players to collect and level up their offense, defense, and utility gems that match the rift's attunement and to use their bonus that must fit the requirements of the specific level. You need a chaos, digital, and horror one, which can only be used on those specific levels. This becomes problematic because acquiring and leveling up those gems can be time-consuming and grind-heavy, often pushing players towards spending real money to progress efficiently. Players must also use certain characters from franchises or specific characters to fully complete each of the levels. Higher difficulty levels impose restrictions like fatigue and limited lives, further incentivizing players to spend money. To fully complete each challenge, you must also play with a friend online. You cannot do these challenges in couch, co-op, or offline because Multiversus always requires an internet connection, and couch co-op does not count the challenges. The company Player First Games were probably thinking, ooh, if we make it so they need a requirement to play online with other friends, it'll convince their friends to download our game, woohoo, which is incredibly scummy, and it should not be a requirement to advance further. This pay-to-win nature of the Rift system makes it incredibly frustrating for solo players and those unwilling to invest financially. creating a barrier to fully enjoy the game. I've been rooting for this game because the beta felt like a lot of fun. However, the release has been incredibly disappointing because over the last year of no communication from player-first games, we ended up with a worse product that removed many quality of life features that it had previously. This game has so much potential, especially with an IP as large as Warner Bros. Backing it up. The developers have heard the backlash from the internet, and they're going to try and change it. But if you can't get the release right after a year, I don't think that's a great sign for the game's longevity. Do you agree or disagree? Have you experienced any of these problems? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for some more content. So, final question. Should you download Multiversus? Coming from someone who spent $60 in the beta and waited a year for the release?
If you ain't eat a tree from... Did you eat...